Hey y'all, I'm Derek. Welcome to Bad Movie Friday Night. Well, October is here, and we all know what that means. Scary movies, ooh. Granted, if you watch this show long enough, you're going to realize that most of the movies we feature are either science fiction or horror. But still, this is a month dedicated to all the creepy crawlies that go bump in the night. So I had a quandary on what to present this month, and I decided to go smart. This month is dedicated to a great man who I know will make a great movie for a great fright, John Carl Buechler. For those of you who don't know the name, John Carl Buechler is a special effects artist and director who's been actively working in the entertainment industry since the late 70s. He's worked on so many movies, his IMDb page is literally a litany of the progress of Hollywood. He's also one of, if not the only person, to work on all three major horror franchises of the 80s. That's right, he's worked on Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th. That fact in and of itself is worth a tribute. This movie we're featuring today is his first feature-length directorship, after having worked as a segment director for an anthology film called Dungeon Master, and was released by Empire Records in 1986. And get used to that studio. We'll be revisiting them a lot on this show. This movie has a lot of history with me and my family. I first saw it with my siblings when I was about 6 years old, and we weren't supposed to. Our parents had a copy, they were at work, it scared the ever-loving crap out of us, and it basically created our love of horror. What's this fabulous movie of 80s shtick I'm talking about? Troll. And for those who are coming over to watch it, I'm making what I call 100-year-old Scotch Eggs. Right now, I'm boiling eggs. So let's get started. The film starts out with a family of four pulling up in front of their new apartment building. The family including Michael Moriarty, of Law & Order fame, and Noah Hathaway, who I'm just calling Atreyu for this, because his name in the movie is literally Harry Potter. Wait a minute. A kid named Harry Potter who goes into a magical world and has adventures? Nah, it's gotta be a coincidence. And a little sister, I'm just going to call Carol Ann because that's basically the gist of her character. Seriously, a precocious young blonde girl with an Ann in her name, who immediately goes off to play with her ball in the basement because her parents don't really care about stranger danger. At which point, she is taken by the titular character and thus starts the terrible Satanist daycare scare of the 80s. The troll figures out that getting caught is not going to help his plans of world domination, so he turns into the girl. As you do. And hilarity ensues. Okay, so the eggs have been boiled, they are cool, and I've already shelled them. Over here, I've made a marinade of soy sauce and mirin. Mirin is a sweet condiment from Japan and made of rice, and it's really good with ramen. However, if you can't find it, you can use rice vinegar. Trust me, I had to go to Kroger at midnight on a full moon to find mine. So, I'm just going to marinate these for no less than 2 hours, and overnight if you can. And don't forget to rotate them. During dinner, Carol Ann pulls the fire alarm, and we're introduced to the other stereotypes living in the building. Let's see here. There's the jackass ladies' man, played by late Sonny Bono. The wannabe actress, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Kind of apt and appropriate. The Vietnam vet, and the grouchy old lady with a heart of gold, played by the great June Lockhart. So anyway, the troll disguised as the girl goes and bothers Sonny Bono. Yeah, I don't know his character's name. It really doesn't matter. But what does is this scene. He turns Sonny Bono into a giant eggplant that erupts into a forest filled with ugly little critters. This scene used to scare the bejesus out of me as a kid. But I think that it's hilarious now that all I can see is the troll sitting there reading a Playboy the entire transformation. That is just great. So the eggs have been marinating for 2 hours and they have a nice brown color to the white. It's going to give an extra layer to the eggs and also give it an aged look. So now it's time to introduce it to the sausage. I'm using a sage sausage. You can use whatever you like. I just like the flavor. So first, you take the egg, cover it in flour, and introduce the egg to the sausage. Sausage, say hi to egg. Egg, say hi to sausage. And then we wrap it up, put it to the side. Anyway, Atreyu has some doubts about his sister, and immediately goes to see June Lockhart to tell her what he thinks. And his sister meets up with the last of the tenants of the apartment building, played by actor Phil Fondacaro, who's really giving his A-game in this movie. Oddly enough, he also plays the troll pretending to be Carol Ann. So I keep thinking about how in this scene he's literally talking to himself. Atreyu goes to the store, and his sister goes to see the Vietnam vet. She does her thing, and then knocks out her brother as he coincidentally comes back into the apartment. Because coincidences are the greatest way to move a story forward. But more than that, what is the dad doing during all of this? He's rocking out in the living room, of course. Thank goodness his upstairs neighbor already got turned into a pea pod that sprouted demonic suckling pigs. Otherwise, he'd have to go up in front of the co-op board for being too loud. Alright, so Atreyu is bedridden now, and Carol Ann's new friend, Phil Fondacaro, comes to dinner and starts reciting The Fairy Queen, which causes all the new trolls to start singing. I have to say, Richard Band's composition here is actually really good. This song used to scare me when I was a kid, and truth be told, it still scares me sometimes. But just imagine if Phil Fondacaro started quoting his lines from when he played an Ewok in Jedi. Would the trolls start singing The Duel of the Fates? Actually, that would be pretty awesome. Okay, so we have the eggs properly sausaged, so now we're going to dredge them. I got a bowl of flour, a bowl of beaten egg, and a bowl of panko. Egg into flour, into egg, into panko. And since we're almost ready to fry, let's go get our oil ready. I like to turn it up to medium high heat. And the way I like to see if it's done, ready to fry or not, I just take a little bit of that egg wash, mix a little bit of panko in it, throw it in. When it's floating and the bubbles start dissipating more, that means it's done and we're ready to fry. So, after a night of watching really bad science fiction movies, and other weirdness, Noah goes and sees June Lockhart to ask her, "You were Maureen Robinson in Lost in Space. Why are you in this picture?" No, he goes there for backstory. and it just so happens June Lockhart has all the information he needs. She explains that a troll named Turok is taking over the apartment complex. She's actually a sorceress princess from the Middle Ages, and Turok has taken the girl to act as the heart of his world. What she doesn't explain is how this is happening, how she's still alive, why they're in Los Angeles and not in, I don't know, Europe City in Europe. It's amazing how much plot exposition is given without anything really being explained. Oh yeah, while this is going on, the troll takes over the actresses and Phil's apartments. Now, don't get me wrong, the scene in Phil's apartment is actually quite touching, as the character gives a monologue about how his body's breaking down and he's not too long for this world. But then, after he's turned into an actual elf, it's just too silly. And again, Turok is played by Phil Fondacaro, and he's talking to a puppet with his face on it. That is postmodern as hell. Okay, so the oil is ready, so now we're going to fry these up. They should stay in until they have a nice golden color. And are nice and crispy. That's why you don't want to use too much sausage, otherwise the outside will burn before the inside gets warmed up. Now we're just going to make some chips. I'm just going to wash these off. I like to keep the skins on and dice them as evenly as possible. And yes, you can use store-bought. I'm just a glutton for punishment. After all the plot exposition, Atreyu leaves and June Lockhart undoes her hair and becomes her daughter. I'm not kidding. That's actually June Lockhart's daughter, Anne Lockhart, because this is a family picture. Okay, bad pun. Well, she decides to head off to face the troll, which goes nowhere. Seriously, she goes out to fight, but she's immediately disarmed and turned into a stump. Okay, so the eggs are fried. I'm keeping them warm in the oven, so now let's start working on the potatoes. Now, Atreyu sets out to save his sister, and runs into June Lockstump, who explains it's all up to him. At this point, the parents are in the apartment, and keep opening the door to see the building overflowing with trolls. I just want to yell out, "You have a peephole! Use it!" Atreyu finds his sister in the middle of a forest, and after he frees her, is met with the heart of Turok's world, who immediately goes batshit crazy, goes after Carol Ann, so Turok ends up killing him. So Atreyu and Carol Ann make it back to the apartment, and the movie ends with the family moving out, and a cop, played by Atreyu's real-life father, going into the basement, only to meet the troll in the middle of a forest. And the chips are done, just in time. So, what do I think of the movie Troll? Well, I like it. It's a horrible movie, with a ton of plot holes, a lot of overacting, and 80s kitsch. But it's a good romp into the realms of fantasy horror, and an entertaining movie to riff with friends. And the special effects makeup, although somewhat muted in color and sometimes not in focus, are interesting to look at and quite varied. Many of the trolls would later go on to star in the movie Ghoulies, which is a movie I'm sure we're going to get to at some point. So all in all, yeah, it's bad, but it's a hell of a lot of fun, and I recommend it for anyone who enjoys getting together with friends and poking good-humored fun at movies. This is the first horror movie I ever saw, and even though I can see how dated and low-budget it is, it will always have a special place in my heart. Add the Scotch eggs. Serve them in wholes or in halves with plenty of chips, and pair it with a nice dark ale, Scottish if you have it. Then sit back, turn the lights down, and have a good time. And that's it for this week's Bad Movie Fry Night. Come back next week as John Carl Buechler month continues with his first credit as second unit director, Hard Rock Zombies.